just like to get called to order because some people have to leave for the Board of Ed meeting, which is, I think, at 7. So we want to make sure we use our time efficiently. So we decided to have this meeting to give a chance to have our committee, our district, discuss any letters or comments that they've gotten from the community regarding the bus issue, the 2-mile radius that the students are riding to Darien High School. So I thought we might start by just asking everybody here if they have gotten letters from the community, and then we're going to open to having Mr. Mac. Is there a time that you have to leave, Mac?
Like quarter to 1.
Pardon?
6:45.
Oh, okay, no problem. Okay, so I've gotten several letters, and I just thought that it would be a good idea to just discuss the letters that we've gotten and whether we have any thoughts about them. So, want to start?
I've gotten a couple that have been forwarded to me.
Okay.
You mean via email?
Yeah, by
RTM blast.
I haven't received any.
Oh, you haven't gotten any? Okay.
I may not be on the distribution list yet, though, so that could
But you
be.
should, okay.
you're not on the they've not updated you on the committee list.
Okay.
That's online.
No, I think they.
This would just be
It wasn't
district.
as a
not-
district.
This would be district, not committee.
Really?
Yeah,
for
this is a
district.
district meeting.
Yeah, right. I'm saying it would not, he just said it wasn't updated.
One of them wasn't updated.
Committee.
Either the
Right.
committee
That would
wasn't
be relevant to
No,
getting
you
this.
did not. You should
Yeah.
get,
Okay.
I'll follow up on that. Have you gotten letters?
Yep. And I got letters.
You have not, okay.
Me either.
Maybe it's older ones or.
You have?
I got one. I just got this
I
one.
mean, it could be.
Okay.
I make, no, excuse me, I got
more than
one. I
Yeah.
got one, but I haven't had a,
This one?
no.
Okay.
That's all.
Oh, yes, that's the one I got. Yes, that's all.
Excuse me. Matt, if you're going to participate, please go closer to a microphone.
He's not participating yet.
You're participating currently.
I think the announcement was, anybody who wants to make statements has to come to the podium, so that channel 79 is the mic for remarks, okay? But for us right now, I think we're being heard. Yeah.
I've just gotten one letter that went to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah. And then, actually there was 2, because I think there was 1, and then they corrected some things or expanded on some things, so that's what I
The same for Liz and I.
Okay.
And I didn't.
All right. For someone who has gotten the letters, would you like to summarize what the issue is? Do you want to? Apparently, the issue is that some of the students who live in the area that is covered by District 2 and I think District 4, which is south of the Turnpike but north of the Boston Post Road, are within a 2-mile radius of Darien High School, and therefore their children cannot have access to a bus ride to school. And parents have brought up that the students are having to walk over the Turnpike, past the railroad station, an area that is, a lot of people are rushing to the train going forward. There's going to be some construction in that area also, and so there's a lot of concern about safety of the students going to school in the early morning hours when it's not even daylight yet, and then in the afternoon, students have been denied the use of the bus in the afternoon if the bus is filled, coming home, and parents have had to leave work to bring their children home because they can't get a bus ride. I'm sure we have some parents here, is that right? And I'm going to let you all speak. I'm sure you can add to what I've said. Do we have any questions now that you want to make sure you have answered? Do you think it was covered?
So I'm not really quite sure when you said on the way home, are those children that normally would take the bus, but because the bus is full, they're not able to take
No,
it?
they're not.
So they were never allowed?
No.
They live in the 2-mile, and so they...
Right.
Once they get close enough, and ones that would drop you off close enough, I get the idea.
Okay.
And
Deny you getting on board the bus, they weren't going to deliver you to your house, but they were going to deliver you close enough.
Okay, well, I think we can let the parents clarify that a little bit more. I think there was a time when a student could walk to a place that was
A bus
farther
stop.
than 2 miles, and they could get on a bus there, but that's being denied now. The other thing we have as a guest, Mac Patrick, who is the chair of Public Health and Safety, and his committee discussed this, and I wonder if you could just say a few words about what your committee discussed?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah, I'm Mac Patrick. I chair the Public Health and Safety Committee, the RTM. I'm also chairman of District 5. But we met back on January 27th, and we did discuss the busing issue. Just to be clear, we didn't vote on anything. We didn't really take a position, but we just talked about it. There were a lot of questions that were asked and answered by our members. One thing that was brought up was the issue of the sidewalks all along Norotan Avenue. There are places where it is rather dangerous to walk, crossing streets where there's a lot of traffic. It's dark in the morning. We also talked about the fact that there's often snow on the sidewalks. And the town does have an ordinance to shovel sidewalks, but it really is not always done. That weekend, around the time of our meeting, had been Martin Luther King weekend with a Monday off, and a lot of people had been away, and they came back, and the sidewalks had not been shoveled, and it was tough when the kids went back to school. There were a lot of kids walking in the road because of that. We were concerned about that. Another issue with Norotan Avenue is when you go down to the corner of Middlesex and Norotan Avenue, and then continue the walk to the high school. That whole block, it's probably more than a block, but there's no street lights. And I don't quite understand why that is. It's lit all the way down towards the shopping part, all the way down to the Post Road, but if you go towards the high school from Middlesex, there's no street lights. So it's very dark in the morning, dark in the evening too. So that was a concern that we talked about. But overall, we're very supportive of parents that are concerned about getting their kids to school with the issues. And like I said, we didn't take a vote on it, but I can speak for our committee that we're quite supportive of the concerns. No, thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Did you send the concerns to the Board of Ed or at all?
We've not been to any other committee, and we've not been to a Board of Ed. We just met among ourselves. And we actually will probably discuss this in the future as well. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me, quick.
Yeah, sure.
Do you know the timing on the police decision? Because it sounded like Dr. Adley said he did not think it was dangerous, but he was waiting for the police to give an answer on that.
Well, I know the police were doing a study, and I say the word study. I don't know quite what that means, but I think they were doing something, coming back with some recommendations, and I don't know where they are with that, to be honest with you. Yeah.
I talked to the police, or emailed with the police captain the other day, and he said that they are doing a study on the viability of a crossing guard at the corner of West Avenue and the road. That's what they're studying, just to determine about a crossing guard. So he did not give a conclusion yet.
So he's not going to give a dangerous, not dangerous.
He didn't say any more than that.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, he said I could continue to ask questions if I wanted, so I could go back to him if I wanted after this.
Because it sounded like from Dr. Adley's response that he did not think it was dangerous, but that he was going to wait on the police to see what they said.
And what was his logic for saying it wasn't dangerous? I mean, he had to base that on something. What was that based on?
So no, surprised by the answer.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any objections to I ask some of the parents to say that? Okay. Would any of you like to express your concerns about what's going on? And just tell us your name and your address. And please use edit for Channel 79.
Do we have a time limit because of the Board of Ed meeting? Or
I
are we
think
going
we're
for?
gonna-
We have a
we should bring
PC.
that.
and
What time does that start?
7.
7, okay. We're going to be done by 7.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jackie Miller. I live at 84 Fitch Avenue. I have a freshman in high school, and the way I got involved at this was just at the beginning of this year. I was really surprised when my son didn't get assigned to a bus. I'd always seen kids from the neighborhood get on a bus, so I didn't understand it. I was told that the software that the district uses, which is called Versatrans, is different from, say, Google Maps. Google Maps says I'm exactly 2 miles from the high school. Versatrans says I'm 1.87 miles from the high school, so I don't get a bus. As a practical matter, what that has meant is if there's room on the bus, the kids can get on. They're not allowed, they don't kick them off. But they're not officially assigned. So if the bus is running late or if there's some sort of communication that goes out to the parents of kids on that bus, we wouldn't get that communication. And then because we're not counted, the district doesn't really know how many kids are going to show up for the bus. So as happened to us one day in November, my son went to get on the bus, as he had done every day to come home from school, and he was not allowed on the bus because it was full. And we were shocked, just I was at work, my husband was at work, and it wasn't clear how he was going to get home. It was the first really cold day in November, which was the really rough thing. So the more that we have done research, the more we found that just as a practical matter, parents in Darien have been available to drive their kids to school. And that's really been the foundation of the system. There are 1,400 kids in school at Darien High School. There are 8 buses provided for the school, just 8. So assuming 72 kids per bus, that's just a small fraction. That's 40% of the population that gets to school via bus. So for us, it's really an issue of safety. It's a long walk. The first bell is at 7:40 in the morning. So kids would be leaving 6:45, 6:50. And in the winter, that's before sunrise. It's dark, it's cold. There are cars racing to get to 95 North, cars racing to get to 95 South, cars racing to get to the train station, cars pulling out in and out of the Chase Bank driveway, of the gas station driveways. It's really not a route any of us would want our kids to walk. Some of us who are at work have no choice if there's not room on the bus. So we really think it's a capacity issue. It's not a matter of walking to another bus stop. The question is whether there's room on the bus. So in the morning, typically there is room. In the afternoon, there isn't always room, and it's harder. We've asked the district for a head count of the number of people assigned to the number 2 bus is mostly what serves the neighborhood near Town Hall. The number 1 bus is mostly what serves District 4, and we haven't heard the official number of kids assigned to each bus and how many of those kids ride the bus.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Lazara. I live across the street from Town Hall. I wrote a letter to the editor of, I think it was the Darien Times, and they published it as an op-ed, so if you've read it, I don't want to repeat myself. Okay, that's fine. The whole thing stemmed from my having tried to get to the train station in different ways, and then almost getting hit by a car in a crosswalk, and then walking the long way around Maple to get to the train station. So the bottom line is, if I don't feel safe doing that walk across the bridge because of all these things that we've discussed, the highway, the on and off ramps, people from all over. And in fact, in the same issue of the paper where my op-ed was published, there was an article in the police blotter about a stolen car that was sitting in a gas station, and they were trying to steal another car, and had they been able to actually get the car, but the key fob was with the owner of the car, so they couldn't move it, they would have torn out of that gas station at top speed, probably not looking for pedestrians on the way out. So there's just multiple factors having to do with out-of-town traffic and things like that. So anyway, thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, I'm Allie Ramsteck. I live at 29 Park Place, and I have 3 daughters, junior, freshman, and 7th grade. And I won't speak long, but on November 18th, my junior called me. She takes the bus when she doesn't have an after-school activity for the last 2 years, not assigned to a bus. And she actually told me that she wasn't allowed to get on the bus because they were taking attendance, and if you're not on the roster, so I had to pick her up. I thought she was lying and just wanted me to come pick her up, but I happen to be the director of human services here, so luckily I work in town, and I was able to, and not occupied in a meeting or something, was able to go and pick her up, because like Jackie said, it was freezing. And since then, I think our biggest concern is is having them walk. No one would let their child walk. There's no crossing guards. They don't just need one crossing guard. They need 3. They need one on Norotan and Maple/Hecker. They need one, forget Ledge Road with the entrance to 95 South. It's just, there's no way anyone would let a loved one walk there, let alone the fact that it's freezing and right now, and that they're gonna walk in the dark and whatnot. I'm fine with the morning, it's the afternoon for work. I'm a single mom, and on behalf of the clients that I work with and other parents that I'm friends with in town, any working, not just single moms, but also dual working households, to leave at 2:30 in the afternoon, well, not even 2:30. I actually, when I do have to pick them up, I tell them I'll get them at 2:45. I'm not sitting in line for half an hour just to, waste half of my 1 hour lunch break. But please give it consideration, because it's just not feasible. I actually know of another local mom who's affected by this, and she had to hire someone just to drive her daughter home from high school. So appreciate your consideration and support. Thank you.
Just to clarify, we don't make the decision.
I know, but
We
you can
just
support
be
us or
perhaps-
advocate
yeah.
for us, whatever.
Yeah, okay, thank you. Anybody else like to say anything? Of course, anybody, yeah, sure.
You know that. Hi, most of you all know me. Thank you, folks in the audience, for coming to give that testimony. I think that's really helpful. I'm Patty Baumgartner. I'm on District 1. So I thank the District 2 and Clara for having this meeting. What I just want to cover is I was on Public Works for a number of years before I came on to Parks and Rec. And at that time, several years ago, we had a project for Norotan Heights in the pipeline. And usually how these projects work for these big projects, it takes a while to get through the pipeline, through capital and everything else. And so not only do we have one, not only do we have two, we have three big projects coming for Norotan Heights. And so that is part of the big concern. So I walked this Saturday morning because I feel like when I do my due diligence, if I'm going to have to vote on this, again, I'm not on the Board of Ed, so I wouldn't vote on it, but ultimately the overall budget will come to the RTM and we'll vote on it. I feel like I have to walk the walk. My dad used to say you have to walk the plant, so I had to walk the walk. I got up early Saturday morning and I did walk that walk early. And when I tell you, it's not one, it's not two, it's not three, it's possibly 4 crossing guards, maybe even 5. So by the time you do that, let's just get a bus. That's how I feel. It was dangerous, and I'm an adult, and I didn't even have ear pods in like the kids do. So I will tell you that I support that, and I'm gonna, because my big concern is it's $86,000. I'd like to see it in the budget now, because I think we have to plan for this long term, because these 3 projects are going to be consecutive. And so the liability alone, if something terrible happens, it's just not worth it. So thank you all for sharing your stories. I really appreciate it. My walk, just so I can tell you what I did, I walked from the bottom of Post Road at Finch, and I walked up, and then I cut over on Park, across the street, and then I went by, where Baker Park is, and then I walked along that side of the road. So as I was crossing 1, 2, 3 intersections, and I've actually videotaped it and took pictures, and just in case to share with people. But when you're crossing over, and I'm not even on the ledge side, ledge is over there, that's 1, 2, 3. A car came, honk, 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 and again, fortunately, I didn't have ear pods in, but that's a dangerous section as well. So again, thank you for coming out and sharing your stories, and I hope that we get this in the budget. I feel like a lot of people on the RTM support it. I hope that a lot of people on the Board of Ed will support it, and thanks for sharing your story, and keep it up.
Thank you, Patty. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. So would we like to discuss what we just heard or make any recommendations?
So our leverage is to vote against their budget if this isn't solved?
Well, I would say that's pretty extreme.
Yeah.
I was thinking more along, we can't demand that they do anything, but I think the more people who think this might be a good idea, if we bring forward that as an advocate, it might be a good idea. You can certainly vote on the budget whichever way you want. It might be something they can deal with this year. Okay?
I propose that we have a consensus to do a public comment tonight at the Board of Ed before their meeting at the beginning public comment, because they're voting on the budget tonight.
Correct.
And say that we support our constituents' concerns and ask that they add the bus in now, and also ask that they add to a future agenda item that they review their busing policy.
To tighten it up to a mile. Really
Just to
should,
review,
I think,
I think tightening it up to a mile would be, I thought it was a mile.
It's 2 miles for the high school,
Yeah,
it's a
I-
mile for less
it's
than that.
different for different
Different for grade,
levels.
based on the grade level.
Yeah, well, I thought.
But a half mile for a 7-year-old. whose
Yeah,
parents are
that's
both
huge.
gone to
Yeah,
work
that'd be huge.
Is still an issue.
Yeah.
Just a question for me. The only solution I've heard, and I just want to confirm it, is that if you allow for those people to be bused, the cost and the solution is $85,000 or
Yes.
$86,000. And that's it. There's no, because I hear little banter about maybe we could do something else. It's 0-1 on this, just so I understand.
That's my understanding.
I don't know, I mean, I suppose there are other options that they could consider.
But listening to this public comment, it sounds like the buses are pretty full. I could probably use another bus just for,
It'd also be interesting to know,
Stacy,
Yeah.
part of our, advocating for this bus, and mainly because, in my point of view, this is all construction is going to go on.
yeah.
it'd be interesting to know how many students it involves.
It's going to come up for, because that's abnormal, right?
Yeah.
Well, I would suggest. But I also, I think that we should ask the Board of Ed to do a definite comprehensive review of the buses, because anecdotally, I have friends who live, back,
Yeah.
on the New Canaan side.
Right.
And those buses, I'm being told, are really super empty. So there's some logistical issues that are not working properly. If you've got empty buses over here and you've got people who can't get a bus over here, and if the cost differential is $88,000, I mean,
Well, having lived in that,
it's huge, but I also think that it needs to be something so that we're not just adding a bus here and a bus here and a bus there. And like that could get kind of crazy, and then we lose focus on the busing
yeah.
as a line item where it's analyzed and looked at. And I have a feeling it probably hasn't been totally looked at in a long time. So everything that we have should be occasionally looked at, and so I think that's
So it sounds like a
Something-
review of the busing policy, but
Yes.
also that people who live a mile or farther away should have some sort of transportation, so that in case there's a non-bus solution.
I'm not going to say what the
I
solution
I don't know we should solution it.
No, we should,
Transport it.
I'm not on
board with that.
okay, so,
I would be opposed to solution.
I haven't had a child in a high school for.
Maybe it doesn't. I think
okay,
we
let
need to
one
look at number of
conversation at a
buses.
time. Okay.
Dollars, there is a dollar
But
cost.
for now, they should be afforded transportation.
Yes. But I think that part of that is that you don't want to just tack on this bus forever and ever if you haven't done a comprehensive review of the whole busing. You might think to probably come out with this bus will stay, but like,
I guess I would say transportation rather than busing, because I'm not smart enough to know whether or not there's something, is busing the overall moniker for
that's a good
getting?
thought, because I don't.
I think it's important to keep it broad like that. I would
Yeah,
agree with
just
that.
what, transportation rather than bus?
Yes, let's
Okay.
not, I don't think we should be solutioning for them. I think we should give direction as to what our concerns are. But to solution it, to say we should
Okay.
change the distance and we should make it a bus versus something else, I'm not sure that's our purview.
Okay,
I haven't had a child in high school for a long time, but why was this an issue now?
Exactly.
that's a good
Was just-
question.
Was just this,
Was there an accident, or these projects haven't even started?
wait, you gotta go to the mic if you're gonna talk, you should go to the mic.
You're the leader.
Hi, sorry, Jackie Miller again, 84 Fitch Avenue. We don't really know why it's an issue now. We think that because they're not counting the kids who don't qualify for a bus, they're not really appreciating the volume of who's riding the bus. And this speaks to the issue of really needing to review the policy as a whole. This policy was passed in 2009, and it's a pretty restrictive policy. There is, within the policy, the ability for both the board and the superintendent to make an exception in case there's a specific condition or set of conditions that seems hazardous. We think that the traffic as it is hazardous. We certainly think the construction adjacent to Norotan Avenue on Heights Road is going to be a situation. We also know there's construction planned on Norotan at the intersection of West and Norotan and at Ledge and Norotan. Yeah.
So I have a question, because I was trying to figure out, so what has changed? This policy has been in effect since, what did you say?
2009.
Okay, and
And I
so
don't think it was materially different before that.
we haven't had any accidents, right? No one's gotten hurt, right? So am I hearing that this is a concern now because of these projects that are going on?
I mean, I can only speak to why it was a concern for me. It was a concern for me when my kid couldn't get to school.
But that policy's been in effect, so lots of
It's
kids
been enforced,
have
there's
been.
been enough of a buffer.
There's also demographics.
Yes.
So it sounds to me like there
And location.
are more kids riding the bus, maybe in the afternoon.
Maybe more working parents.
I think that we haven't been able to quantify that, but yes, I think that's,
In the neighborhood with 3 kids, when before, 5 years ago, it was an elderly couple who sold their house. There's those kind of demographics which I could just opine that happens, and I don't know the answer because I haven't studied the demographics, but those things happen.
Right.
But it sounds to me like the buses have gotten so that these kids who can just kind of get on and off, like.
Okay, so I have another question for you.
Sure.
So is it if it's the construction, and the construction's going to take 3 years, are you suggesting that we have a policy now and we change it and for the next 3 years, and when construction's done, we revert?
I would suggest right now my goal would be for the length of the construction while we are looking at the busing policy in general. And I can't remember who made the point, there are definitely, it was you, that there are definitely empty buses from the north of town rolling into the high school. So we don't think that just making a blanket change of saying, okay, we want it to be 1.5 miles or we want it to be 1 mile walking radius necessarily makes sense, because why throw these buses on there? We asked specifically if we did change the walking radius from 2 miles to 1.5 miles, and we were told that would require 6 buses. But we weren't shown any documentation of the way that was tabulated. So I think there is a little bit of route analysis that needs to happen. We have not had a full-time transportation coordinator in Darien. That's something that's going to change in this year's school budget. So hopefully there's a way to be more thoughtful about the way that the buses are planned.
Because if you shorten the distance, I mean, you have 40 kids, you have 40%, you're looking at another 11 buses if everybody decides, wow, I can take the bus. So is that what you're advocating for?
No, I'm not advocating for that.
So are you looking at kind of a 1.5 mile? Is that what you're thinking?
She's looking for they're looking for a bus for them right now. Because if it doesn't get into this budget, it gets pushed off another year. And then, but not even another year, because it would be maybe in next year's budget, but that wouldn't take effect until the next year. So they'd be without a bus for like 2 years, and now you've got, like, I don't know if they're freshmen, but they're going to be
Right.
So I just want to say one thing. I'm Kelly. I live at Dickinson and Fitch, and I'm working with Jackie and a few other neighbors, and I'm kind of representing actually the underclassmen that are rising and coming up. So I think we have a short-term need, which is for our neighborhood immediately right now, for the 8th grader, the 7th graders, 8th graders, and 9th graders that are going to be needing to take the bus there and back. But then I'm also kind of representing all of the grammar school students, and I can just tell you I run a huge chili Halloween cook-off parade in our neighborhood, and just from like 4 years ago to now, we've had a huge influx of baby boomers and young kids. I mean, it's great. Our neighborhood has really changed over. So I can just say from my unscientific point of view, outside looking in, you're going to have this problem even worse, I think, as you get into the grammar schools. So yeah, that short-term need of getting a bus for our students right now, but then representing a lot of the younger students that are coming up.
That's why I proposed that we said we support our constituents' concerns tonight and adding a bus tonight, and then also asking the Board of Ed to put in a future agenda a full review of their bus policy.
Yes.
And we did have I think we have to get back to what this committee can do. So if we say, long-term, ask the board to do a comprehensive review of the transportation policy, and we support the constituents' concerns that the students, or that the board add a bus. Does that, I mean,
sounds
that's
great.
about what we could do. We can't get into the weeds of
Sure.
demographics, that's the Board of Ed's job.
Yeah, they could just reshift a lot of the buses.
Pardon
Yeah. They could just really reshift probably a lot of the buses.
Well, that's up to them.
Yes, exactly.
How they do it, but I think what we're saying is, we've heard your concerns, we support you, and long-term, we would like the Board of Ed to do a comprehensive review of the transportation policy.
And I would add to that a risk analysis, some sort of assessment, because we are on notice now. God forbid
I know.
something were to happen. If something breaks at a school, they fix it. $86,000 out of a $100 million budget, we can figure this out. And I just can't imagine anything that would be more tragic than if there is an accident and we quibbled over that money.
And I would just like to build on that point. Last year, the Board of Ed made a running path for the cross-country team. And part of the thought process there was it wasn't safe for the kids to run in the streets. So if that's a whole team running together have a safety issue, then what about kids who are walking at 6:50 in the morning?
That's true.
So these safety issues are known.
I think that was a DAF gift, the running path. Okay. Yeah, so let's go back. Did you have something?
Yeah, I was
Michael?
just going to say that I think, I'm certainly concerned about the safety issue, and probably I'm supportive of what we're going to end up voting on. I'm going to think about that a little bit more. But I think we're going to be careful to not presuppose a solution. You know, when I hear about the bus for this, which I think is probably the right idea, so don't misread me, the reality is we're solving an isolated situation. We talk about changing it from 2 miles to 1.5 or whatever. The fact is, this bus will solve for that group of people, but there are other people who are closer who will still have to go past Ledge Road and past other things, because those will be much closer than the 2 mile even limit. So I think we have to be careful. I think it is a bigger study, and I would be supportive of asking the board to look at the policy. But again, it's been a policy that's been around for a long time, so there's just a lot of info there and demographics, other things. I'd want to give them the opportunity to really look at carefully.
Okay, so if our first statement is to support the concerns that have been raised about the students, might we make that vaguer and not say at a bus?
Yes.
We support the concerns that have been brought to the attention of the town about students having to walk a long distance to school, something like that.
I would use the word safety. I think it's fair to use the word safety in there, unless anyone disagrees, that we hear people's safety concerns about the walk to school.
We've heard the safety concerns about students walking to school, right? Over the 2 mile. It's the distance, isn't it? I mean,
For me, it's not the distance. I mean, to me,
Yeah,
it's
I
the
agree.
specifics of this path.
This,
Whether it's a half a mile, I mean, frankly, if you were just on the other side of Hecker, you're well within the 2 miles, but you still have to go through all of those
somehow
challenging
I'd like
areas.
to somehow get through that, maybe for this under the, south of the thruway line, let's add another bus in there right away, just to solve the present issue and not end up, in a 3-year study and finally gets put in when everybody's graduated.
Well, go ahead.
Realistically, how soon could we get?
That's up to the Board of
Yeah.
Ed. I mean, I guess that's where pardon me?
Well, they have to put
It could be.
tonight.
Tonight, they're voting on their budget.
So they have to put it into their budget. If it's not in their budget, the only way they could get to have a big number that's the budget. Right. And the only way they could get to that bus would be to take it from somewhere else if they don't want their budget up for this 86,000. And they can still maybe find it from somewhere else, because we don't do a line item their budget, we only do a top level number. So they can still maneuver their numbers around and find a bus if they don't add it to them to add it to them tonight.
But
If they're
they
gonna do it, if they want to
could
do it,
do
that's
whatever they need to do to address a safety concern quickly. But I think based on what we're hearing and what this committee could agree on, we want to say, we've heard the concerns about student safety for the group of students who have to walk over I-95. You would like to say add a bus. Not everybody agrees to that.
I would add our district, because this is our district.
We've heard the safety concerns about the students in our district who are walking over I-95 on their way to school, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
And the second thing, that we would like a comprehensive review of the transportation policy. What else? Anything else?
The only thought I had was, just depending on how quickly they could mobilize another bus, would it make sense to have the crossing guard be at that intersection in the interim? Or is that something you want to recommend, or is that not necessary?
The irony is, what I've learned in the Board of Selectmen budget is we pay for the crossing guards.
Yes. Crossing
But
guards
the
are
Board of
in the budget.
Education doesn't pay for the crossing guards, we pay for the crossing.
Although in one of the last budget workshops for the Board of Selectmen, Jamie Stevenson was talking about shifting the budget responsibility for the crossing guards to the Board of Ed.
Yeah, we're having a discussion about mutual things, about fields and, but if we were to add crossing guards tomorrow, it would be a town expense, not a school board expense.
Right.
In terms of this committee, does anybody want to say anything about a crossing guard?
No.
No. Oh,
I think.
Can you restate
some of this is
how you've crafted it, Clara?
We as RTM are representatively support the people resolution of the problem.
Yes.
And we would like to see a solution that is jointly arrived at, that helps these people. But we cannot, it's not our job to give specifics until it is our job to encourage them to do this study and then have them do it. And once a study's done, you can parse it and rethink it and come
But they still
out.
need an immediate solution.
Yes, we believe that there should be an immediate solution to the, and my point of view is mainly for the construction, because that's going to be horrible when all that construction's going on. So I think that.
But the immediate
Maybe we
solution is
add the
now.
New Road
Yes,
Heights
now.
construction site in addition to your crossing 95 language, in fact, to
But
be
we
specific,
can't just
because it sounds like some people are really supportive of it.
Okay.
11 buses,
Because of
that's
that.
a lot of money.
We're not going to get into the details of the actual buses,
That's
number of buses. It's their job, okay.
And
But
Ms. Cruz's job is to analyze this and come up with a solution. It sounds like our money's not being spent well on one side of town or the other side of town, so.
okay, so would this, Michael asked if I would repeat this. We've heard the safety concerns about students in our district who walk over I-95 on their way to Darien High School. And we would like the board, or we would encourage the board to do a comprehensive review of the transportation policy. But do you want to add something about the construction at Norotan Heights to the first
I was
statement?
just doesn't, because I've heard from a few people that they're on this table where they think in particular the reason to do it is because of the construction. So you would put in there the part about crossing 95. I just wondered if it made sense for those that were concerned about it, about the reason to focus on it now because of the addition of construction, to therefore add it in. But that's just one thought.
Yes. I
Okay,
think that's a
so
good idea.
we've heard the
Keep it
safety.
tight, but add it
Okay.
as well.
Safety concerns about students in our district who walk over I-95 on their way to Darien High School, particularly with regard to, particularly now that there's an impending construction project in Norotan Heights.
Yeah, projects
Why
plural.
not middle school as well? Just walking to school.
Middle school is,
Making them do a whole transportation.
Yeah, we gotta be
Got a
careful.
bus.
Or asking if they would do
We
it.
ask for too much, they'll just push it into a future study.
And
I
there's,
assume that in this transportation analysis, you're going to look at elementary, middle, and high school.
Can I say, is there a consensus, among the parents of what they would like the policy to be? That every child should be able to ride the bus, or should there be specific milestones for elementary school, middle school, and high school?
I think the milestones as set forth are, with elementary and middle school, as far as I'm concerned, are okay. I think a 2-mile walk in the morning with your backpacks, especially when freshmen don't get lockers, is really unacceptable. It's a long walk. I mean,
I've only heard
it's
high school.
safety's,
Yeah, I think
safety
it's been-
aside, which is extremely important. 2 miles is a long walk to ask our kids to do it.
That's 40 New York City blocks.
Oh, yeah,
Did
okay.
you have
That's a long walk, right?
okay, we're going to have to wrap this up, so I just want to make sure everybody is heard. Did you have something?
I did. Carolyn Cavallo, Cherry Street. I have a daughter who will be a freshman next year. I'm just a couple quick points. Just to touch on the demographics, I also happen to be a real estate attorney. 2009 was the beginning of the recession. Everyone has started moving back in. The houses that were languishing have now been sold. So if we don't have anyone looking at transportation in this town, that's crazy, because demographics change. The other thing about your district is we're pretty tight zoning. There's a lot of houses. There's a lot of kids. On my street, there's 13 kids for the elementary school bus. I was shocked when I found out that there was no bus for my daughter. She would have to pass the 95 entrance north. And this is just to refocus a little bit. It's not just about the construction. So you got to be careful of what's on the horizon. She has to pass the 95 north entrance on Hecker. I'm careful when I'm in the car. She's got to cross Hecker just to get to the bridge. And as someone pointed out, cars have parity with pedestrians there. I don't like making a right or a left off ledge when I'm in a car. So my daughter's not walking that. And I work, so I can't pick her up. I might be able to drive her in the morning, but I can't pick her up. So I feel like the discussion's drifting a little bit and getting a little too specific. If we're going to mention construction, I would respectfully ask that the word immediate be put in the request, because it's to distinguish the fact that an immediate response for next year is needed only because of the construction. But an overview of the policy needs to be done because it's ignoring a large and vibrant portion of the town. Thanks.
Thank you.
I have one question, excuse me. How far are you from the high school?
I thought I was more than 2 miles, but apparently I'm not. I'm not sure. We don't have access to the software that they use, so Google Maps says I'm 2.1, I think, but yeah, Cherry Street.
Thank you. Yes.
Ooh.
I got to West Avenue, West Avenue, and was crossing, and it was a half an hour, and I still had another probably 20 to 30 minutes, and I know I'm much older than these kids, but I was panting on my video. I believe that it was measured from specifics, when you're talking 2 miles, it was measured to the front of the oval of school. Y'all can double and triple check that, but I don't believe it was measured to the front doors of the high school, or more importantly, where the buses drop everybody. So that could be a measurement that automatically should garner people getting, because that's another X amount percent of getting it. So there's a lot of solutions, but I would very much say you want to ask for an immediate solution for your district or this area, walking over your roads and avenue.
I wonder if it was measured with the old high school, because that would be a very big difference. So, because of all the driving around that you have to do to get there. Yeah.
Thank you for hosting.
Thank you.
This. It was great.
Okay, so we have 2 statements, and a lady just said something about saying an immediate, rather than.
Solution, yes.
An immediate solution. So we've heard the concerns about the safety of students in our district who are walking across I-95 on their way to Darien High School, particularly with the impending construction projects in Norotan Heights. Are we going to say we would like an immediate solution?
Yeah.
Immediate solution for all students underneath the thruway line, south of the thruway line.
Okay. Well, I'm just putting it out here. Do you all want to say something about immediate solution?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. And the need for.
I mean, it sounds like review and immediate solution are the 2 points.
Her second statement is review. We haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, the other statement, encourage the board to do a comprehensive review of the transportation policy.
I might say request rather than encourage.
Request, okay?
And I would take out impending, Claire. because
Okay.
It's actually.
It's already.
It's
happening.
Okay.
It is happening.
Okay. Is everybody okay with this?
Yes.
We could say it's kind of a sense of the meeting that we're doing this, and we're
Yep.
going to present this evening?
Yes.
Okay? Does any?
We could,
it is.
I don't know what their,
It's on the agenda as an action item, so do we want to have a motion?
I'll motion.
Okay, Stacy, a second?
Kara?
Okay, Kara, all those in favor of the statements that I read? Okay, is there anyone who is opposed? Anybody who wants to abstain? Okay, thank you all very much. I don't think we have any other business tonight. I think it's, we occasionally have these district meetings, and maybe we'll do it for another topic later on this year, okay? Could we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Okay, Michael and Vincent, and it's about 10 minutes of 7.
Thanks, Lara.
Thank you all.
Great job.